They got Hassan Reddick back. They traded for Devontae Adams. They got rid of their head coach, yet the results are still the same. Connor Hughes, I'll start with you. Where do the Jets go from here?
I don't know, Jeane. I don't. I mean, I saw the numbers. Dan Orlovsky tweeted them out. I think teams that did not commit a turnover scored over 20 points and held the opponent to under 250 yards were 750-0 before yesterday, and now they are 750-1. The Jets like to talk in these post-game locker rooms about how it's the little things that are holding them back. They're right there on the cusp of being a really, really good football team. Do this small little thing right and it'll be fine. Fix this and it'll all be okay. But what is so damning is that this team is not finding ways to win. They're not learning how to win like these players like to talk about and coaches like to talk about. They are inventing, quite literally, new ways to lose football games. It's bad. It is so bad. And I don't even know where you go from here, Jeane, because, when the Jets were struggling in past years, we could always point to things like it's the quarterback, right? Like they need the quarterback. They just need a quarterback, or it's the offensive line. There was one thing every single week that held the Jets back. Like there was one thing that held the Jets back, and that's what was causing them issues. And as long as they fixed those things, it was going to be fine. It is something new every single week with this team. It was Aaron Rodgers making the mistake with the interception when he was targeting Mike Williams, but then in the Minnesota game. It was the missed field goal against the Denver Broncos. Then it was Mike Williams running the wrong route. Then all of a sudden we transitioned to now where what is it? It was 3 consecutive games in a row. The Jets offense had the ball in their hands with a chance to drive down to the field and win the game. They went 0 for 3 in those situations. Against New England, they finally go down the field. They finally punch it in a 70-yard drive. Braylon Allen, they've got the momentum. They can win. All they need to do is keep Jacoby Brissett, who stinks, out of the end zone, and the defense, which had been so good, just marches as the Patriots walk right down the field and score. The key play is being the 12-yard run from Brissett on 3rd and 9, the long completion 34-yarder on Sauce Gardner, the all-pro, to bring the Patriots down there, the 4th and 1 run to Stevenson to clinch the game. It's so demoralizing, and it is so defeating because you look at this team and it's something different every single week, with the only common denominator being they are losing.
Connor Rogers, do you have an answer? I mean, where do the Jets go from here?
Yeah, well, number one, they just don't do a lot of the little things right, and it piles up into a bigger issue, right? They don't play good special teams, and by that, it's not just missing kicks. Even when you look at the ball that Herb Charles couldn't down at the 1-yard line, that was as perfect as a punt as you could ask for. They don't cover punts very well, as we saw Marcus Jones rip off a big-time punt return as well. They're undisciplined against the run, right? They don't keep contain. They lose contain all the time. I mean, allowing Drake May to scramble against you is one thing. Allowing Jacoby Brissett to scramble against you is just flat out embarrassing. And obviously, they're undisciplined from a penalties aspect as well. So this is a football team without an identity right now. They don't know what they're good at on offense, and they came into this game. New England was one of the worst run defenses against outside zone. The Jets had a good outside zone approach with Breece Hall in the first half, but for some reason, they got away from that. They don't lean on what they're good at. They're not clutch in big-time moments, and they can't rely on their top players to make a play for them when they need one at their absolute peak of a moment. And we've seen that with failed game-winning drives from Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of weeks, but yesterday it was the defense. Allowing Kayshon Boutte, a former UDFA wide receiver, to catch a big play against Sauce Gardner in that spot. I mean, it's just utterly disappointing over and over again. They don't communicate on the back end of this defense. They look very, very soft up front many times against the run. They miss a ton of tackles. They have so many mistakes where we're not looking at it and going, fix this, fix that, or this player's coming to save this. Right now, they're just a bad football team in all 3 phases of the game, lacking consistency where it matters most.
And Connor, I think what I keep going back to, and it's the one thing that I circle and say, this just felt like the rash, reactionary decision that was done without really thinking it all the way through, was firing Robert Saleh. And in no way, shape, or form am I sitting here telling you that Robert Saleh is a coach of the year. Robert Saleh was absolutely not without fault. Robert Saleh was absolutely not without blame. His record of 20-36. I mean, that's something he's going to have to own, because there were so many situations and so many games in the past where the Jets just didn't look like they were ready to play, weren't prepared, they were out-schemed, out-coached, all that fun stuff. Like it was absolutely on the head coach, and there was an issue there. But when the Jets made the decision to move on from Robert Saleh, it was almost like it was made with just like this is what we're going to do and everything's going to be fine. There's a reason why when teams make interim coaching changes, 99% of the time they go to the special teams coordinator or they go to a positional coach on the roster or somebody who has some kind of head coaching experience. Seldom are they given to the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, because in season, to put that much responsibilities on one person is debilitating and backbreaking. And we've seen that now, because the one thing the Jets could always hang their hat on, especially through the first 5 weeks of the season, was their defense was still there. It wasn't perfect. There were always issues in the run game, but it was still a top 10, maybe top 5 defense when they were really on. And that was without Hassan Reddick and dealing with some of the injuries. When they fired Robert Saleh and then they went to Jeff Ulbrich, they didn't say, okay, Jeff, you were the defensive coordinator, let's give those obligations to somebody else. They just took all of the responsibilities of Robert Saleh, put them on Jeff Ulbrich's plate, and now you can tell the guy is overwhelmed. And I do genuinely believe that Jeff Ulbrich can be a good head coach in the NFL, but this is just like a disastrous situation, because now you already had issues on offense and with the quarterback. Now you have issues on the defense because you have somebody who's being pulled so thin in Ulbrich. Again, this is not a situation where they absolved or took away some of his responsibility as coordinator. They said, no, you're still our defensive coordinator. You still run the defense. Oh, but yeah, now you also have to be the head coach. When Ulbrich has never been a head coach before in his entire career. It was just such a colossal mismanagement. And it really... It sounds crazy. A couple weeks ago, the Jets were a game out of first place and playing for first place in the AFC East against the Bills. Now they've lost 5 straight and the season's over before Thanksgiving. Like, it is just wild to me. And the little bits of the sky that are falling all over the place, we've got all these problems. I'm sure we'll get to it with the play clock. I think part of it's because you see Aaron Rodgers shaking off the plays he doesn't want from Todd Downing. Dude, he's the offensive coordinator. Run the play. Like, there are so many issues. And again, like Connor said, it's not one thing. It's not one thing you can focus on and say, fix this and we're good. It's just, there's 37 cracks in the dam, and at this point, the water's already through.